Let's make reserve funding real. Picture an oceanfront community, more than 60 years old, with hundreds of homes, private roads, salt air, and a beachfront clubhouse. It's beautiful, but it's expensive. In this part of understanding reserve funding, we see how the condition of the assets, the costs of those assets, and the amount of cash in reserves shapes long-term outcomes. It's a powerful reminder that reserve decisions don't stand alone. They're all interrelated. Okay, we turn the page and we're going to talk now about some examples. How do we apply these principles? How do we apply National Reserve Study standards? What kind of decisions are we making? So example number one is what we call oceanfront HOA. It's an actual client. We've changed the name. It's a planned community where everyone maintains their own home, over 200 homes. It's a well-established community built in 1962. It's an early entry to community association living, but fortunately, they got it right. It's a nice, well-balanced association. Near the ocean, they have ocean beach frontage, so people are able to have their homes, enjoy a private roadway, and oceanfront clubhouse. It's a great place to live without paying the very, very high cost of your home being actually on the sand. Clubhouse is busy on weekends. It's a regular destination wedding rental place. It's just frankly a nice place. And they have done a good job over the years of taking care of this place. So we've talked about the expenses being foundational to a reserve plan. And so that's where I want to start. These are the reserve expenses laid out for this oceanfront HOA. Notice that they've got a couple of bump high years and some medium years, and they are literally the asphalt and the clubhouse. Kind of no surprise. This is often how an HOA reserve study looked like. Often the common area infrastructure, again, because you don't have the residential big peak for roofing or painting or boilers or other major mechanical type things. So it's very typical. It's a very plain vanilla HOA. And I want to go through some examples with this to show you some of the things we think about. One is the deterioration rate. How much are things deteriorating per year on an ongoing basis? Influence of funding goals, influence of starting reserve balance, how much a difference it makes in your funding plan to have cash or not cash, the influence of when major projects occur. And it's kind of fun to show how interest earnings make a difference. And for this, I'll be able to jump right into our UPlanet tool. It's our online reserve calculator. Our clients have free access to this after we complete a reserve study for them because we want them to be able to touch and feel and get their fingers into their reserve plan. It's not just a report document PDF. So right into oceanfront HOA. They are a client that we've been doing reserve studies for them for many, many, many years. And it's kind of nice because they get it. They're taking great care of their property. And we are regularly tweaking and tuning their reserve phase. So let's look at what their reserve phase says. So I'm launching UPlanet. And you'll see that it has a page for components. This comes straight from their reserve study. And the control panel where they show their starting balance, interest and inflation, things like that. The recommendations page where we are actually working on, I want to say the dials, adjusting the parameters, how we're developing the reserve funding, some customized override, and then tables and charts. But Brian, join me on this. We've showed everyone what their event scenario looks like with the asphalt and the clubhouse. And I'm going to pull up this component significance table and join me here. We have some small line items, but does this surprise you that asphalt, the parking lot is about 3%, asphalt is about 31%, the ceiling is about 9%. Does it surprise you for a HOA?
No, not at all. In fact, this is very common for, I would say, the majority of communities that we work with. They're asphalt, which is something that I find that I personally kind of take for granted. I just drive on it and assume it's always going to be there. But that is one of the more important and expensive components at the majority of our communities that we work with is going to be whatever their drives are, whether that be a concrete drive or an asphalt drive. They can be quite expensive and quite important.
And then behind asphalt, we have a number of components for the clubhouse, a number of smaller components, but they're cycled, so they happen remodeling cycles similarly. So you don't see another big number jump out. But bottom line is this place is deteriorating at the rate of, you may or may not be able to see it, so I'll call it out, $177,253 per year. And you may ask, well, what is that? And I'll show you an easy line item here. This vehicle gate, the $28,000 gate system, but it has a 28-year useful life. So it's deteriorating at the rate of, on average, $1,000 a year. And it's things like that. So it's how big is the project? And you can look at this one, the asphalt project. It's about $1 million divided by 20 years. It's about 50 grand a year. So this is deterioration. So this is the rate at which things are deteriorating. So when we come to the recommendations page, Brian, are you surprised that we're not far from 177,000 when we're making a recommendation?
No, I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah. Okay. And then again, these are people with homes, with beach access, beach clubhouse, and their reserve funding is $818 per home. And that's really not too surprising. If we go down to 177, hit right on the nose, and we see what happens when we do that, it drops a bit, a very noticeable drop actually. But because of inflation effects, we want to stay a little bit ahead of the deterioration rate. I could go down a 10-minute rabbit hole on that one, but I'll leave it as is. And I introduced the idea of a baseline funding plan. And keep this in mind, the full funding was $194,000. This kind of threshold plan that keeps you about in the 50, 60, 70, 80% range over the years. That's $177,000. If we go to baseline, that's going to take us down to, maybe you can see it here, $159,000. And wait for the display to catch up on our webinar. There we go. It gets down close to zero. And of course, you may remember that's a big asphalt year. And if they're not exactly right on that projection, they'll have a special assessment. Now remember, we expect to update this many, many, many times before we get to that next asphalt cycle, but we don't want to put too much of a pinch on these last few years of homeowners. So we want to design for effective, strong reserve funding. And that's pretty much what this association has been doing over the years. They are like 90% funded at this point in time. One thing I want to show is that, okay, the difference between baseline funding, which is risky, and full funding, the $194,000, that's about 18% difference. And so it's not a night or day difference between full funding or baseline funding. All we're talking about is just a little bit of margin. The vast majority of reserve funding goes straight to taking good care of the property. Okay? So we've talked a little bit about the deterioration rate. We've talked a little bit about the funding goal influence. I want to play around a little bit with the starting balance. Let's say instead of 1.7 million, that they only have $1 million in reserves. A lot of money. Brian, wouldn't it be nice if your checking account has $1 million?
Be great.
Yeah, but again, we're talking about a 200-some home association with roadway, with a clubhouse on the beach. So we have to be careful that, wow, $1 million sounds like a lot, but let's see what happens when they only have $1 million. Look what happens. They crash and burn. So they're going to need some special assessment. I've done some advanced work on this, and the asphalt project is 2 years out. What I found is they're going to need about 2 years of $200,000 per year special assessment. And that will, whoops, I'm still on baseline funding. Get them back up to 194,000. There we go. Okay. Now they are head above the sand. Um, they're not at the full funding that they were previously, but they are doing okay. They got a little bit of a hit because they're they lost a little bit of momentum because they have to have this special assessment. Brian, what are other things that you are seeing here?
Yes, I see that really, as we had been noticing before, that the biggest driver is coming up soon. So when, because one of their larger projects is it's upcoming so quickly, if they're in a position where they don't have adequate funding already set aside, they're going to have to get the money somehow, right? And as we have shown already with this particular property, they have been doing the right thing and doing the right thing consistently, right? So
Yep.
consistency compounds in this situation.
Absolutely.
So because previous owners were taking care of the property, we're now seeing that the current owners are benefiting from that.
Right. It's a smooth situation because we look at this and kind of coincidentally, their full reserve funding is about $800 per home, and the special assessment is about another $800 per home for the next 2 years. So these people are getting hit double because the prior owners weren't setting a little bit more dollars aside. Now, I want to play around with the timing of this project. Let's imagine a different reality where the asphalt is 4 years away instead of 2 years away. And I'm just very easily going to make that adjustment here. Change that to 4 years away. And staying with no, I'll leave the deal where it is. And let's see what happens when I push that asphalt 4 years away. You can see how it's further out into the future now. And the costs are the same. They're just a little bit different, shifted. And what I might want to do in this case is take advantage of those 4 years and make 4 years of $100,000 PO. That's whoops, sorry, too big. Because we want to have as much stability as possible. So we don't want to have a big special assessment this year for something 4 years into the future. So we're trying to spread things out, even things out. And you can see that it's 4 years of special assessment gets us through this big asphalt project and gets us through about the same result. So that's what we're trying to be careful of. It's not punishing the current owners too much. We're trying to, as much as possible, spread things out. And then one other thing I want to show you is the influence of interest earnings. Now, notice that we've got it somewhat balanced here where it's stabilizing at about that 80% level. Let's go to the control panel, and they've got $1 million. Let's say that rather than 2% after-tax increase, they're getting 3% after-tax interest. You may be in the market, on television or whatever, hearing that there's a lot of financial institutions offering 4% on savings, and that's a great thing. So let's save this. If you take away the tax that you'll be paying on your 4% or so, it'll end up being about 3%. Let's see what happens and that's then what you can hold on to. You're not paying it to the government. Look how big of a difference that makes. That gets it up above 100% funded. So when the bank or your financial institution is paying more money, you can pay less, which is a really cool thing. Brian, are you able to see people with that much of an influence or even more influence when they are able to optimize their reserve interest earnings?
Yes, yeah. We actually found out after some numbers that I ran that theoretically you could decrease your reserve transfer by 7% for every 1 point of interest increase that you see. So it is like getting more people contributing into your reserve account just by getting an extra point. So it may not seem like a big deal, but anything can really help. And that's what we would say. It's like you're just saying, it's not going to save the association, but it can help. And that's always a great place to start. How can we save money? How can we help our association?
Right. This is some of the parameters, some of the controls that we have to say, hey, you've got $1 million. You can be earning a lot of interest on that. It's worth a phone call. It's worth a half day of paperwork to get that. It's good for your association. It'll improve your funding and reduce the funding burden on your homeowners. So I'm going to take just a moment here and then reset this all to its original condition. And then Brian will get over to your project. And that's really as easy as it is to work with UPlanet. Working on the controls, there we go. The things that we were able to learn. At Association Reserves, we make the present less stressful and the future more secure. If you want to join us in this mission, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment down below on what you'd like to see us address in a future video. Let's plan for your best future.